So we'll do the social studies, right? And so each of the exams, including EC through 6, which is arguably the most challenging exam because it has so many content areas, subject areas within one content area. And so with each of them, to become fluent or sort of getting that expertise, you have to go back to the standards and the TEKS and sort of correlate those two together, because that's where they get the questions from. They come from our state standards, which is what we should be able to do and what we know in the classroom, like about the subject area. So what do you know about social studies, and then what can you do with that knowledge to implement coherent instruction, consistent assessment, and engaging implementation of instruction. So I just want to bring your attention here to the standards that are sort of listed here with an overarching just what it's all about. I want to draw your attention before I move to the TEKS to this area here, because I'm going to want you to see how they really do overlap. So standard 4 is all about history. Standard 5, geography. Standard 6, economics. Economics. 7, government. 8, citizenship. 9, culture. And then last but certainly not least, science, technology, and society. So those and they're part of your everything else up here is about like what you need to know as far as integrating and planning an effective curriculum, making your instruction, planning your assessments and your evaluations. But here is where we get into the nitty-gritty of social studies, all the different areas. These are the same areas of focus in our TEKS. So from EC or K through 12 in social studies, each of the students are going to be learning knowledge and skills in those areas: history, geography, economics, government, citizenship, culture, science, technology, and society. So in each of the grade levels, we add a little bit more. And so because of where they are, because of what their cognitive abilities are when they're younger, what their life experience has been, we don't start kindergarten social studies instruction with like, Texas had a lot of slaves, or, the Civil War, or anything like that. It begins in this very foundational. First, we begin like, what is a society and what's a community and who are members in a community? And that's the way kindergarten. And so each one learns a little bit more and gets more in depth in those areas: history, geography, economics, government, citizenship, culture, science, technology, and society. So let's take a look at, let me clear these drawings, at the TEKS. Aha. So here are, okay, these are only junior high. Here are the TEKS for social studies, right? And for EC through 6, it's mostly going to be all in your elementary document, but you do have 6th grade, and 6th grade is listed for you in middle school. And so you take it when we're going to start with 6th grade, and then we'll go to kindergarten. If you look at the overarching idea, the introduction for each of the grade levels in TEKS, they tell you what is the goal for this particular subject. Like, what should the kids get from leaving their 6th grade social studies? And then we find that social studies and is for 6th graders mostly about world history, right? This is about like other cultures, different countries, the different hemispheres, all that good stuff. It's about really looking at the world. Let's take a look at this number 5. Throughout social studies, K through 12, students will build a foundation, and here it is, in history, geography, economics, government, citizenship, culture, science, technology, and society. So, and the social studies skills. And then in each grade level, it is listed in each of the strands. So here's where history starts off. And we have what is a student expected to know and expected to do regarding history in the 6th grade. They need to trace characteristics of a variety of contemporary societies in regions that resulted from historical events or factors such as colonization, immigration, and trade. So maybe looking at like the different reasons for migration. Now, the students have to be able to trace the characteristics of the different societies, right? And to see how people come and go based on different factors, right? Immigration, trade, weather, whatever the case may be for their movement. If the students have to know it, you have to know it too going into the exam. And so some of these are more skill-based, not necessarily knowledge. That one was knowledge, but I'll take a look at one that is a skill-based. There was one on, let me look at the technology one. Okay, I know I'm getting to it. Okay, here it is. Social studies skills. Analyze information by sequencing, categorizing, identifying cause and effect relationships, comparing, contrasting, finding the main idea, summarizing, making generalizations and predictions, drawing inferences and conclusions. So these are things they must be able to do before they leave your classroom. They have to be able to summarize. Excuse me, one moment. I have a delivery coming. Sorry. So these are skills that they have to have. They have to be able to identify cause and effect relationships. That means that as a social studies teacher in the 6th grade, I have to give them opportunities. So I have to carefully craft activities, give them events and situations that they can practice these skills, you know, in class. And many of these you'll see comparing and contrasting, summarizing, finding the main idea. Those are actually reading skills, right? Reading comprehension. And the bulk of social studies is a lot of expository text, reading that informational text. So it's very important that we give them, that we teach them, that we model for them, you know, how to make generalizations, how to make predictions, like drawing conclusions or making inferences from our readings. And that comes through modeling, from doing things together with the students, and then breaking apart. So into either small groups or think, pair, share, so they could practice those, you know, utilizing those same skills. A careful, close reading of your TEXES is going to be so incredibly important. If you understand, okay, 4th grade is mostly about Texas history, and this is what they need to, the main skill that they need to be able to do, or the main skills, and you'll be better able to address what strategy the test makers are looking for based on what they've given you. If they say Miss Salcedo's 4th grade class is, you know, getting ready to learn about propaganda during the Civil War, you know, which of the following activities would be the best or most appropriate for Miss Salceda to do with her 4th graders? And so 4th grade, we'll go look at it right now. 4th grade is Texas history. That is its focus. So going through here, especially with the Texas history one, you want to make sure you have a working knowledge of the names and places that they talk about. You don't have to have them memorized and know everything about like the Kickapoo, right? But you have to know, okay, well, who are the Kickapoo? Whereabouts did they roam? Who were their main enemies, or like what is notable about them? And so if you take a look at history B, it says identify and compare the ways of life of American Indian groups in Texas before the European exploration. Now, and then it lists a whole bunch of them. I can only tell you in detail about one of them, the Karanka one, because my great-great-grandfather was a Karankoan Indian. So I have like a special knowledge of that. Everything else I'd have to look up and do like a tiny little 2-sentence thing, like where did they roam, who were the biggest enemies, and how did they end, you know, something along those lines, so that you're able to, because we don't know what particular historical events or names they're going to name drop in the exam. But if you have a solid sort of surface level of what key players you know, had central roles in what key events in each of the different areas. So in 4th grade, these are the main ones. Now, 4th grade is what I would consider because remember, it's the students examine the history of Texas. They also do that again in 7th grade. So this is like Texas history light. And then you have like the Texas history. So what the 7th grade TEKS are very similar, but they go super duper more into detail. And they also talk about more age appropriate type conflicts and scenarios that arose that maybe they didn't discuss in the 4th grade level that still happened during that time period, but we add nuance and rigor as we go, as they get older. And so these names, Travis, Bowie, Crockett, Seguin, Benavides. Yeah, I can tell you about like 3 of them in this long line. But they could ask you, you know, Miss Salceda's 5th grade class is learning about, or it wouldn't be 5th grade, it would be 4th grade. 4th grade class is learning about Placidio Benavides. Which of the following activities would be best? But if you don't know what Placidio Benavides is, you won't be able to choose an activity that would best help them understand his contribution or its contribution, right? You have to have a surface knowledge. And really the only way to do that is to go through the TEKS with like a fine-tooth comb. And then in this Google folder, oh, chihuahuas. In this Google document folder. Here it is. Where's that? Oh, well, it's not even listed here, but I have placed for you the TEKS, and they do it the way that I placed it for you here. It's by grade level, but you can do it by content area as we did here. That other one was via grade level, but if you wanted to do, and we were looking at social studies, but if you wanted to do fine arts, for instance, we come to fine arts elementary, and then it breaks it down, and you'll see the goal for each at the top. Fine arts incorporate the study of dance, music, theater, visual arts to offer unique experiences and empower students to explore realities, relationships, and ideas. It's important to like read over these at least once, because sometimes when you're working through the scenarios or the answer questions, it's important to keep in mind. One moment. No, sir. The puppy was chewing on my 6-year-old's toy, and she will have a heart attack when she comes home from school. I'm like, wait a minute, that's not your toy. Oy. Like I have more children at home.
Yeah.
Whenever we read these introductions and you kind of have an idea like, okay, this is the overarching goal of the fine arts program, then it's easier sometimes to choose that best answer, because you see like this answer supports the overarching goal for fine arts better. It incorporates more things, or it, you know, it helps you to understand the whole picture and to be able to hone in on the correct answer. So this one is particularly from art, and so each strand is of equal value, and you have the 4 basic strands: foundations, observation and perspective, creative expression, historical and cultural relevance, and critical evaluation and response. So you have foundations here: foundations, observation, and perception, and then the different knowledge and skills that they have to leave your classroom with. And remember, this is at the kindergarten level. And so you see what they're the goal for them. Students develop and expand visual literacy and critical thinking, imaginative and senses. So, and that's what sort of one of our goals for fine arts is to expand critical thinking and imagination and creativity beyond the bounds of logic, beyond the bounds of a book and a paper and pencil. And so, let's see, that's for kindergarten. Take a look at music for kindergarten. So again, fine arts is the incorporation of dance, music, theater, and visual. And then we offer this to the students so to help them expand and explore their realities, their relationships, and their ideas. Again, the 4 basic strands: music literacy, creative expression, historical and cultural relevance, critical evaluation and response. And again, they're listed there. You have the different knowledge and skills that they have to do. So identify the difference between 5 voices, including singing, speaking, inner voice, whispering, and calling voices. See, I don't know what calling voices is. Anytime you don't know what something means, there's nothing wrong with searching it up. There's only okay, that was 0, not helpful. There's only anything wrong with you pretending you know what something means and moving on, like, because that will be, to your detriment. I'm assuming calling voices is like when you're yelling at someone like, hey, Miss Alzada, like that would be, if I had to guess, calling voice, right? But my point is that even going through this, and I've been a teacher 20 years, 20 plus, I always find new things that I didn't know about. I was tutoring for PE and I learned a new sport. It's called orienteering. And I didn't know what that word was. I had zero, like, it had the word orientation. So I was like, but it's you finding yourself. It's like, have you ever seen that show Naked and Afraid, where they just dump people in the middle of nowhere and then they have to find their way? That's what orienteering is. It actually is the thing. They didn't just make that up.
Wow.
Yeah. And it's actually in the TEKS for PE in Texas. Super crazy. I did not know this.
Wow.
Right, exactly. So it's really important, especially with the ones that we're testing with that are going to be our, our content area, that, our profession, that you go through with a fine tooth and comb, and that you can sort of más o menos an example of what I now know what orienteering is, and anytime I come across something new like that, I look it up, I make a note there, and then it's solidified in my brain forever. So the best way to prepare for this exam is going to be carefully reading and researching, because you're not studying. You don't have to memorize all this. In fact, I would never ask you to. Be a waste of your time. I don't want you to do that. I want you to have a working knowledge with these ideas listed, to be able to say, we just looked at one right now. Davy Crockett, this is what he did. He wasn't just the guy that wore the raccoon hat. He did other things. And so have like a 1 or 2 sentence, where you're able to frame like a frame of reference for it, for these ideas, because this is what the test maker receives when they create a new exam. I watched them do it with the Science of Teaching Reading. They receive the state standards, our professional standards, which is these documents here. You can look at the art documents. The standards, along with the state TEKS, what is required of the students before they leave that class, that is what the exam is made up of. And so just understanding what you should know and be able to do before you get into the classroom, and then what the students should know and be able to do before they leave your classroom, is going to be the best method of studying. The way you read these is on the left-hand side, you have the K standards, with the knowledge standards. So what you need to know how perception is developed through observation, prior knowledge, beliefs, cognitive process, multi-sensory experiences, and really like understanding how that is a little bit different. If you get your perspective from beliefs, you might not have a firsthand observation of it, right? Your perception is grounded in maybe cultural beliefs. Understanding that there are different perspectives to how we see art, to how we see events, to how we see information, very important. But most important is on the right-hand column, your application of what you know. What can the art teacher do, or the fine arts teacher do in math, or do in reading, or in theater, in any of them? I'm sorry, it's because I'm getting a phone call. I'm gonna reject it. Okay. Oops. So we'll look at 1.1 S, which I always think S is like skill. Assist students in learning to deepen, expand their ability to perceive and reflect on the environment. So that would be you assisting them through observation, helping them understand they have perspective based on prior knowledge, based on beliefs, based on multi-sensory experiences. Like you blindfold yourself and touch something, for some reason you pay more attention to the elements. If I hand someone a stone, they might notice like the temperature and other crevices, where if I handed it to them while they were able to see, they might not mention like the temperature. So just how we can perceive via a multi-sensory experience, and providing opportunities that would allow you to assist the students to understand and expand their abilities. Analyze art elements and principles and their relationships to each other. So, using vocabulary appropriately. It's very important anytime we're doing a lesson and we're using, like, let's say you're doing a lesson and it's the first time in your school you're teaching fourth graders and you're going to do something on texture, drawing for texture, right? It's a two-dimensional, but we are going to texturize our drawing. Now, you might think because they're fourth graders that you don't have to define texture or what it means to texturize, but that would be incorrect. Anytime you are teaching a new concept or you are utilizing specific academic or content-specific vocabulary, you always want to do a direct instruction of that vocabulary before, so that the students have more comprehension of where they're going, what they're doing, with visuals, with examples, possibly opposites. So anytime there's a new principle or element that we fully sort of instruct those concepts before we delve into them. It's best practice of any content area. Anytime you're starting a new lesson, even if the kids do know what texture means, cool, it'll be a review and we can do a lot of prior knowledge examples as we're reviewing this, but it's never not a meaningful or productive endeavor to review and or teach vocabulary before and during. Identify visual symbols in artwork. So going through these, make sure that you are taking notes and that you're dialoguing with your standards. I always say it's best practice to print out all of your standard documents, staple them together, and then one at a time. You only have 2 that you have to do, so that's amazing. So those 2, print those. Actually, it's not 2. It's the fine arts one is a bit more, but social studies and then the fine arts one, and dialogue with those texts and sort of try to line up or unite your standards with what the students have to do on the TEKS, right? And make those notes there. That's going to give you the best help for your exam.
Okay, I have a question. So
Absolutely.
I'm doing right now the 240 tutoring, and I'm kind of just going through like each and every section. And you know, each section has like a subsection to it. Take forever long.
I
But
know
I'm going through each one, and my best way of studying or learning or like absorbing the information is to write it.
Absolutely.
So I'm doing all of that, and I feel that there's information that's not necessary. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. And I'm one of those as well. I need to, that's why I say print this out, because my standards document, when I was getting my teaching certificate with an EPP program, I wrote all over it. Like I read every standard, I put it in my own words. I'm like, this one is mostly about this, and this I could use this think, pair, share with this. I really dissected that exam and brought in pieces from the TEKS, like, okay, this is what they're talking about here. It's because the students need to know how to do this, this, and this. And so that's why I have to do this. And seeing how it correlates as being, because, whoever made 240 tutoring, bless their heart, I'm glad it's available. Certified teacher, those study guides are not made by the test maker. And the test maker is crazy secretive about what they're putting in there and what types of questions. I mean, just on another level secretive. So it might seem like a lot of it is for naught. And especially with the social studies section, because it's so much and history is so large, they really don't know where they're going to hit, I would say for social studies, please know Texas history, because the Texas exam for social
Yeah.
studies is going to be heavy on the Texas history information. They're not going to super quiz you about what's going on everywhere else. Like, they want to know, are you going to be able to, continue with the propaganda of Texas superiority, in Texas classrooms. So like that's
So
what
do
I would.
you think I should go with that TEKS, this thing that you showed me, and like kind of use that as a study guide instead of just going like full out on 240 tutoring?
I would just use 240 tutoring as it should be, not going over with the analyzation on their end. What you want to analyze is this stuff, because this is what gets sent. This is what was sent to the test maker when they created this exam. All they did was send them, here are our standards, here are the student standards via the TEKS, create the exam. And that's how they create the exam. And so it's always the best practice to go back to the original documents and to make sure that you have a very strong understanding for each of the standards and then each of the grade levels within your content area.
Okay. I just so yeah, I feel like I already took it twice, and after this second time, I'm like, okay, if I fail, I don't know what else I could do, because I studied everything like thoroughly on 240 tutoring, but I am not familiar with TEKS and like what's required for each grade level, the standards. I'm not familiar with that. I mean, I have a general idea, but not like that.
Right.
So I'm thinking print that out and use
Right.
that as the study guide and reference back to 240 tutoring as needed.
Write your notes here on 240 tutoring, like the notes you get from 242, align them with your standard, because if 240 tutoring is doing the right thing, they're taking you through aspects of your standards. They're taking you through aspects of those TEKs. So make your notes on here to where it's like doubly useful.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
All right. Well, and
I
don't
scheduled
forget.
for tomorrow also, just in
Excellent.
case.
Yeah, excellent. I'll see you tomorrow. And don't forget, every Tuesday and Thursday, I'm available from 9 to 11 via this link. They're my office hours. So like any teacher builder student can just log in. Today I had 3 log in, and there's normally isn't a huge like wait or whatever. Like I said, I had 3 today, and that was the most I've ever had at one time. But it's great. It's a great time for you to just pop in if you have any questions.
Okay. All right. That was it then. Thank you.
Awesome. You have a beautiful rest of your day.
Thank you. Likewise.
Okay. Bye-bye.